Hi, my name is Bonita Sussman, and welcome to a Kulanu Hangout. I am very happy to have this evening with me Marina Costa, an active member of the Jewish community in Suriname. As you know, Kulanu is an organization that deals with returning, emerging, and isolated Jewish populations around the world, and we help them establish themselves. The community in Suriname is an old community, and we would consider it an isolated community working to grow and connect to the wider world Jewish community. First, I would like to thank Harriet Bograd, president of Kulanu, the Kulanu board, and all of our supporters and people who get involved with our activities around the world. I'd like to thank the members of the leaders of the communities that we deal with and their members and everyone else who has really helped develop Kulanu, help Jewish communities develop. I also would like to thank the two people that actually made this happen tonight, and that's Wathira and Katie. Good evening, Marina.
Good evening.
Welcome to New York.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell me something about yourself?
Well, I'm Marina da Costa. I'm a tour operator and guide specialized in Jewish heritage tours in Suriname. I am born and raised up in Suriname, and my profession is a teacher. But now I'm a tour operator and guide.
Please tell me where Suriname is located.
Suriname is slightly larger than the state of Georgia, and is bordered by French Guiana to the east, Guyana to the west, and Brazil to the south, and the Atlantic Ocean to the north. Approximately 560,000 people who live here, most of whom live on the country's north coast, where the capital Paramaribo is located. Independence from the Netherlands was granted in 1975. Suriname is very ethnically diverse. The population includes Hindustani, Creole, Javanese, Maroons, Amerindian, Chinese, and white people. More than 20 languages are spoken, but Dutch is the official language, but English is widely spoken.
I know that your community is the oldest in this hemisphere and is about to celebrate its 375th anniversary. I know many people actually think that it's New York City that has the oldest Jewish community in the Americas, but it happens that Suriname is older by several decades. Would you like to tell me about your synagogue, Neve Shalom, where it's located, and something about its beauty, its reconstruction, and what it's famous for, its sand floor?
Yes. Well, in Jordan Savannah was the center of the Jewish community of Suriname. When in 1654 the second group of Jews came. In 1639, a group of Jews from the Netherlands and from Italy came to Suriname, and they were living in the capital Torarica, Rich Torah. I will step to the Neve Shalom synagogue. It was constructed in 1720. About 12 families, Ashkenazi families from Russia and Poland, came to Suriname, and they got a piece of land from the government to build a synagogue. So they did. But a couple of Sephardic Jews were living also in Paramaribo, so they had to gather their Shabbat services, and this was for about 15 years, and then they separate. So the Sephardic Jews built another synagogue, but the synagogue at the Keizerstraat, who became Ashkenazi synagogue by the separation, was called Neve Shalom, House of Peace. So in 1735, at the Herenstraat, they built a new synagogue, the Sephardic synagogue, and that was called Tzedek Veshalom, Justice and Peace. On the floor of both synagogues, the floors are covered with sand, and that reminds us about the 40 years in the desert. It reminds us also that during the Inquisition, when Jews came together in normally houses instead of synagogues, because they, as you know, in the Inquisition, they had to be very careful what they did, because a lot of people came in secret together. They became Christians, some of them, and in secret they were Jews. So to muffle the footsteps, they covered the floor with sand. And it was also handy because in the synagogue there were candlesticks, and if one of the candlesticks fell down, we didn't have to worry about fire. So that was the meaning of the sand floors.
That's very interesting. I know that there is also a sand floor in the synagogue in Curacao. I was once there, and it was also a very beautiful synagogue. Tell me something about who runs the synagogue now, the leadership. Tell me about the president, maybe the vice president. Tell me about the people who are actually running the synagogue today.
Well, as I told you in the person-to-person talk, we are a very small Jewish community who survived, and we are very glad that we can have every Friday night our Shabbat service. Sometimes on the Saturday mornings, when we were called together, then we can have also a service. But the synagogue is the board of the synagogue. The chairman is Jules Donk, and he's doing a great job. And the vice president is Lili Duim, who keeps the synagogue going on, and she is really the person who is doing a lot for the community. And
like you are.
Well, I'm joining now the celebration, the organization who is organized the celebration 375 years Jews in Suriname. So yeah, and we, of course, I join mostly every Friday night the services.
Sounds like a good deal. Okay, tell me about who make up the membership. Where do they come from? Do they come from afar? Do they have, are they, in a sense, biological Jews? Are they Jews that are returning with Jewish roots? Mm-hmm. Tell me who makes up the membership of your congregation.
Well, after the Second World War, a lot of people they went to the Netherlands or to America or to Israel. So a few stayed in Suriname, and a lot of descendants of Jewish people join our congregation also. In 1999, the president of the synagogue, René Fernandez, was leading our both communities, the Ashkenazi as well as the Sephardim, to one congregation, and now we are a liberal congregation. If we would stay Orthodox, it was impossible to survive. So we are very glad that we are liberal now. So a rabbi, three rabbis came over a couple of years ago, and they converted also the people who had Jewish ancestors. So we are open for people who really wants to live a Jewish life, and we hope that more people will convert in the future. That's my wish.
Well, I hope that's our wish as well, and we hope that maybe one day Kulanu can be helpful in this regard. Maybe the State of Israel will take on your case. But it sounds like you're doing an unbelievable job in keeping your community alive. I know I've seen some pictures, and your synagogue in the pictures are right next door to a mosque in this beautiful setting, usually with a blue sky on green grass.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, what is your relationship with your Muslim neighbors?
We have a very good relationship. Our buildings stand beside each other, and we live peacefully beside each other. As I said in the beginning, we are a multicultural society. We have respect for each other, and a couple of years ago, the sugar feast and Yom Kippur was ending at the same time, at the same day, and after Yom Kippur we went to the synagogue to have a drink and eat something, and they came to us to eat some food.
I hear that you're an ideal community between Muslim-Jewish relationships, and the rest of the planet should learn from some of your joint efforts.
Yeah.
I know you're celebrating your 375th birthday, and there's lots of history in Suriname that I kind of briefly want to touch on some of the highlights. So could you tell me about your relative, Uriel da Costa? I know when I learned about him in Jewish schools in my life, I really held him up as a very special and unique character in Jewish history. So would you like to tell me something about him? Yeah. I know you have a son named Uriel.
Yeah.
I actually have a grandson named Uriel as well.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so tell me something about Uriel da Costa.
Well, Uriel da Costa had 5 brothers, and they escaped from Portugal in 1614. After after the persecutions, and he studied in Coimbra, and his father was a merchant in Brazil. He and his brothers and his mother escaped from Portugal. Because you were not allowed to go away from the country. First of all, you had to ask permission to the government, to the king. So they escaped in secret to Amsterdam. Uriel da Costa was a philosopher, and he was a teacher of Baruch Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza's father, Michael, and a brother of Uriel, Joseph, both were Parnasim in the Jewish Sephardic synagogue.
You want to
in
explain what
Amsterdam.
Parnas is?
Parnas is, well, maybe you are...
Parnas is one of the wealthy leaders of a community that supports the community, as far as I know.
Yeah. And one of his brothers, Abraham, that's the root where we came from. Abraham had 3 sons, and one of them was Baruch. And Baruch went to northeast Brazil, Pernambuco, and he went away after the Portuguese came in and conquered Pernambuco for the Portuguese crown. A group went to Cayenne, who was a Dutch colony at that time, and another group went in 1654 to Suriname. So that was the group who went to Cassipora, where my ancestor Baruch was the first cantor. Later, they were building a synagogue from bricks. The bricks came as ballast with the ships from Europe to Suriname, and this synagogue was called Bracha Veshalom. So it was a beautiful synagogue with copper candeliers, and it was beautiful inside. And if you imagine that in Europe it was the Golden Age, in Suriname the Jews came in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the interior. They had a very nice village. There was around the synagogue, what was built on a private plot. There were 4 streets around the synagogue, and behind these streets were small streets with houses on the left and the right side, these streets. The roofs were covered with leaves, the same leaves as the Amerindians used for their huts, for their houses.
Okay, can we go to the Joden Savannah? Am I pronouncing it correct?
Yes, Joden Savannah, yeah.
Okay, the Joden Savannah. Could you tell us something about the Joden Savannah?
Yeah. Well, at Joden Savannah, there were 2 medicinally well, one medicinally well, and another one who gives the community enough water. And during the most hottest season and dry season, these wells are in use, and they are still
in use.
They have now made an attraction of it. So when I bring people to Joden Savannah, they can see the
wells.
Medicine at a well. Yeah. We had also on Joden Savannah a cemetery. It was a bit different, like the cemetery at Cassipora, where 5 generations of my family are buried. At Cassipora, you see that you have sections where a whole family is buried. At Joden Savannah and in Paramaribo, you see that all people are buried beside each other. The cemetery is called Bet Chaim, and there are approximately 455 gravestones. At Cassipora, you will find approximately 250. stones.
Yeah. I had heard that your mother was involved in research for this community pretty extensively and developed a technique of reading the gravestones. Would you like to tell us this magical story?
Yeah. Well, when I was a girl of 8 years old, my mother took us, my two brothers and my sister and I, to Jordan very often, and we didn't like it so much. But at that time, and we had to carry water to her because she tried to make an inventarization of the cemetery. And while she was baking some cookies with my sister and I, she found out, I think, on the cookie table, on the kitchen table, that she could put flour on the gravestones and wipe your hands over the stone, and then the whole text comes up. So the most difficult, the stones who are you hardly cannot read, you can read with flour. So my mother was the co-founder of the Joden Foundation, and she did 30 years research on the Jews in Suriname. And I'm proud and I'm glad that she took me and my sister and my brothers to Joden because we grow up with the history of our family.
I know that some of the gravestones have the skull and crossbones on it, and I had seen them on display in the museum in Curacao. And I'm wondering if you can explain something, because it's kind of unusual today to see skull and crossbones on Jewish gravestones.
Yeah. Well, some people think that it's something about pirates, but I always said, that's what I have heard also, that this is the skull and bones are inscriptions, and it reminds us that we are not eternal in this life. This life on this earth is not eternally. So it reminds us that we once, everyone, have to leave this earth.
I have an interesting topic that I'm personally interested in. I know that before the State of Israel was founded, there was a movement called the Territorialists who looked for other places beside Israel, or at that time called Palestine, to settle Jews. There were different efforts all over the world. I know there was an effort in Madagascar and Uganda, somewhere in Russia, I believe. And I know Suriname was involved in opening up their doors for Jewish settlement. Can you tell me something about the Freeland League?
The Freeland League, yeah. The Freeland League, there were two brothers, Steinberg. One was a Zionist and the other one was not. They were struggling, and the Zionists were searching for a homeland for Jews. This group knocked on the door of the Netherlands and asked for a piece of land to and a permission to send over 30,000 Jews from Europe. The government of Suriname and the Dutch government, they were not agree, and they were afraid that with a population of 30,000 Jews who wants to come to Suriname, they were afraid that they were overruled by them. So this Saramaka project, how they call it, ended it in not coming anymore to Suriname. And I think sometimes I think, well, how would Suriname be in this time when these 30,000 Jews were allowed
to come? You would have a different history, I'm sure.
I think too, and more people in our synagogue.
Absolutely, probably competing synagogues as well.
Yeah.
So there are two groups that I would like you to speak about. Both were new to me when we talked before this. One is the Maroons. Would you like to tell us something about the Maroons?
Yeah. I have a good friend. His name is Oscar. He's a Maroon, and we were talking about Jewish customs, and I know that he feels himself like as a Jew. He's a Christian, but he don't want to celebrate the feasts as a Christian, but he is observe the Shabbat and Pesach. So you have some Maroons who are thinking about all these.
They were once slaves?
Yes, they were slaves from the plantation owners and also from Jewish plantation owners. There were not only Jewish plantation owners, of course not. There were also English, Dutch, Germans, French plantation owners. But when they are descendants of runaway slaves, and because they serve by these Jewish people, they saw also how they keep kosher household, and nowadays you can hear them saying, "This is my treif." That means this is strijven. So they non-kosher. So they don't eat fish without
scales and fins.
Yeah.
What about pig?
Some do. Others, if it's their trijven, they don't eat it. So they heard this from their grandmothers, grandmothers. So this is something you see. Yeah. And the population of the Maroons is quite big. They are living in the interior, and it's really beautiful to see and to visit them, because they live in small communities without luxury, and as we are used to have in Paramaribo, in town.
Do they come to the synagogue ever?
Well, sometimes you see some Creole people are coming. My friend Oscar, he came several times. But you see also that there were a lot of intermarriages. So more and more you see that people are interested in their roots.
What about this group called Shiva?
There was a little synagogue, and at the Shiva Plain. Shiva Plain was also in Paramaribo, and black Jews. It was a synagogue of black Jews, and finally the synagogue burned in 1800, and they don't know what happened. So.
Okay, we're coming to the end, and I have one final question, and then I want to talk about your plans for the 375th anniversary. Mm-hmm. So what wisdom can you tell the Jewish world that Suriname can give to them in terms of survival? I know you mentioned that there was at one time down to 2 people.
Yeah.
So please tell us what your gift to the Jewish community would be if you were to give advice on survival?
Mm. Keep going on and be trustful, and never don't give up. These two people who, it was Jack Van Niel and one or two other people who opened the gates every Shabbat. They went to the synagogue, and they keep going on.
Okay, so now let's go to the final point here. Please tell us, I know you're planning a big commemoration for the 375th anniversary, October 20th to the 26th, 2014, in the synagogue in Suriname. Can you tell us something about the plans, and please focus on the Holocaust piece that you have, that you're planning?
Well, we plan, as you heard from Bonita, from the 20th till the 26th, and the first day, the 20th of October, we will have this monument for the 105 killed Surinamese Jews, and we will have a special celebration. We are very thankful to Mr. Van Aalen, who gives us the permission to pick up at his concession big white stones. So this will be a very nice monument with on every stone one name of every Jew who was killed.
Wow.
And we will have a music evening event. We will have an event, hopefully a service at Joden Savannah. And if you like to know more about the celebration, I will ask you to go to the website www.jewsinsuriname.com. www.jewsinsuriname.com.
And I know that Kulanu has helped you. I know that we sent about 16 of your younger members on Birthright to Israel. I know that Jacob Steinberg has been a dedicated helper to develop your community. I know he's involved with the newsletter that you print out.
And he also with the fans of our cemeteries, what is very, very important for us, because our cemeteries are the most beautiful cemeteries and clean cemeteries from whole Paramaribo, and we are very thankful that he also helps us keeping the synagogue as it is now, because every year we have to do reparations, and because in the heat,
repairs.
Yes, repairs, and because in the climate is sometimes killing, so yeah.
So I want to thank you. You're really a world Jewish treasure. You're part of the history of the development of this community. It's more than being the historian. You're making the history. And everyone, please, if you want to help the community in Suriname and other communities that we're helping to develop around the world, in Africa and India and elsewhere on this planet, please go to the Kulanu website, www.kulanu.org, and thank you.